Welcome back to another episode of the Photographer's Journey podcast. I'm Miles Massey, a local photographer, and on this podcast I meet local photographers in the Florida area at their favorite photo locations. And today we are in St. Petersburg, Florida at Vinoy Park / North Shore / Coffee Pot Road. We had to go a little further down because of the noise pollution. My guest today is a former software developer that has faced a lot of struggles but has managed to find peace through photography. She's a great local photographer, even if she won't admit it in person. On Instagram, you can find her at Perfectly Imperfect Pics. Goes here. In person, she goes by
Norah Roberts.
Well, congrats on your recent feature. Was that this morning or yesterday?
Oh yes, Pelican Friday that Cleargram has been doing. Yeah, I appreciate it. That was actually, ironically, that was an old photo of mine from a simple point and shoot camera, my Sony, that drove me to my DSLR that was taken up in Cedar Key. So I really appreciated that feature. That was a flashback. Yeah, I actually, that's where I started to do some manual settings, doing light trails by the Dali Museum of all places. And then again, about 2017, I picked up on a Nikon D3400 someone recommended, and it was the perfect camera if you're a Nikon person to learn, to be a beginner. It was a great camera to learn on for someone like, especially like me, who had cognitive problems from, as you were mentioning, my health issue, which is a traumatic brain injury. 2008, on my way to work, I was in a really bad accident, and I didn't realize how severe the accident was at the time. And let's just say I didn't get the medical treatment I should have in a timely manner, and I started developing seizures, and I started not being able to walk. I couldn't talk. I had a really bad stutter, developed anxiety, depression, things I never had in my life. And this went on for a few years. I kept trying to work in a normal corporate cubicle farm environment, which was really hard to do. I was doing 7 days a week, 10 to 12-hour shifts, and going through all this. And finally, I had enough, and the doctors told me to stop working. And at that time. And I was basically homebound for nearly 5 years. And many days I wanted to get up and go to sunrises, and I couldn't even walk out of my own driveway to get there. So I worked at it over 5 years. And I'd even just walk and sit in my front yard with my camera and sit in a chair for hours on end just to practice my photography, learning how to do manual settings, because my brain wasn't functioning like it did as a programmer. And working in IT, you have to learn code and stuff, and I wasn't able to grasp working with numbers again. And it was kind of interesting that finding photography and beauty and trying to be physical and leading. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. This is what happens all the time with me. Especially if you know me, you talk to me, this happens too often. Yep. Right. I mean, I started out in help desks and when they were not call centers. I mean, I worked in IT departments. I worked the second shift at All Children's Hospital for over 2 years and did a lot of their technical support. I've had some really great jobs, but unfortunately, what happened to me changed what I do now, and I had to find something that made me happy, and photography was definitely it, because you have to find beauty in the world. Mm-hmm. And this led me also to wanting to share with the beauty I see in the world with people, because I didn't realize when I first started sharing my sunrise photos, I didn't realize how many people don't get to see the beauty in Florida, the tropical beauty we do. Mm-hmm. Honestly, you want to know, it was a gift. It was a blessing in disguise, because it made me slow down, and it made me stop and smell the roses like I do with my camera now. It really do, So life is short, and so we have to appreciate the beauty around us. And I think it's great, that what you do and what the people I've are connected with, do. I mean, another thing can I just say is, I don't feel the equipment makes the photographer. I feel the photographer makes the the equipment, you know. I
Yeah.
do, and I might say that if I was holding, you know, something with thousands of dollars and stuff, yeah, I probably would say something different, but that's just me, my opinion.
All right, I want to go and talk about your first account.
You know, actually, since I shared that account with you, I've been thinking about that because it's actually something that going into this year, I'm not a person about you know, New Year's resolutions or whatever. I had something happen again with my year last year that I wanted to grow from, and I was going to focus on what style am I going to use. You know, I don't know how to explain it. When I started to be able to walk and go places again, I wasn't going to parks. I was going to cemeteries and walking around. I also have always found the interest in old gravestones. I find the artwork on them and the detail very interesting, I think, in their art themselves. So again, I was having problems walking, and for some reason didn't go to parks, was going to cemeteries, but it was a quiet place always for me to go, peaceful. It was shaded. There was a lot of wildlife. There were a lot of flowers. So yeah, I did that, and I had a dark side. I definitely had a dark side of photography, but I switched over because, again, those reflect that I was obviously not in a very
Good.
positive place, probably. And you can tell when I started to feel better and I wanted to, again, share the beauty of my area with everyone, I flipped over and created Perfectly Imperfect, because nothing's perfect, everything's perfectly imperfect, and then Pix, P-I-X. As a kid, I always
Pictures.
spelled Pix, yeah. Oh. The moon shots, there's a lot of moons. Again, I was very limited at what I can do. So I could only just walk out front to my yard or in my backyard, depending on where the moon was at. And I would stand there with my tripod, and because of my head injury, I have auras, I have perfect vision. That's one of the very things that is perfect about me. But I have auras, and I have problems seeing things sharply at times, and I'm actually having it happen again right now. And so it was perfect. The moon was perfect for me to practice on, because there's so much detail that you need to find. So it was, for me, a way again to focus and find a way to work with my eyes to straighten them out, to get them back to a healthy.
That's interesting. You find like one topic, it seems like, and you kind of practice that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a smart way to go about it.
And that's again working with those manual settings, because at nighttime shooting
The
nighttime.
rules change
Yep,
completely.
exactly. I don't know why I decided not to share my cemetery stuff and my darker photography. I guess because definitely an insecurity thing. I think it was a vulnerable side of me. But here again, like I said to you, until November of last year, I didn't really share with anybody in the photography world except a select few of what I was going through with my health stuff. And then I never expected to be going through a setback as I am right now.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Digital disconnect.
How is that? I think that's something we all would like to do, but find it very difficult.
It is a beautiful thing to do, and especially my close friends know I am known for doing it, especially on Facebook, which is a whole nother world we don't even talk about. But it's really good for the soul, because I mean, look how much we're connected to technology. We rely on it, and again, somebody whose brain gets overtired and gets fatigued really easily, you need a break. You need this. You need vitamin.
Outside,
Yeah,
sun.
exactly. Again, I don't think I have a necessarily style. I'd like to. I would definitely like to. If somebody that knows me sees something in me that I don't see, please tell me. Point me in the right direction. But again, I just want to learn. I want to learn as much as I can, and I really enjoy I don't know I just enjoy taking it all in,
Yes,
that you don't hear
right.
about.
You did say you're a published author.
I did. Shameless plug.
Completely forgot to ask you about that.
No, and I didn't
you
mean.
can find
I
your new
didn't mean,
book in stores.
No, no, that was another thing after my brain injury. I with all my idle time, my I lost my grandmother who passed away in my arms suddenly in my house.
Oh my
And I went through a lot of grief and stuff, so I used that down period and whatever, and I wrote a book about grief, how to deal with grief and stuff. And I'd like to, anyway, that's where, going back to the cemeteries and stuff, I started doing research because I wanted to write a book, a nonfiction book on St. Petersburg and the history back in the early 1900s.
Oh, okay.
And so that's kind of where I was headed to. And then another thing, which I had talked about at the Cleargram Christmas party, was I'd love to do a table photo book. That's like an ultimate goal.
A coffee table.
Like a coffee table photo book. That's like an ultimate goal of mine. So yes, my name is Norah Roberts, like the famous romance author Norah Roberts. You may not be familiar with her, but
I don't know
women
books, so.
out there know her. She's a famous romance author, and I got tired of people asking if I was her, so I decided to write a book, and it's out there. So.
Wow. All right. Well, you can find that on Amazon. Show notes or description below.
In a perfect world, wouldn't we all? I mean, wouldn't we love to be known for something, and leave our mark on this world?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, of course. Stuff, I went down and photographed every week for about 2 months the destruction of the pier. So I've got that photographed. I've got the whole inside of the original YMCA where I learned to swim as a kid, photograph that has been sitting empty for a god only amount of time. I have videos even of the opening of the Suncoast Dome on VHS, which I danced in with Kenny Rogers, that I'd like to get digitized because people haven't seen these kinds of things, I bet.
Oh wow. Yeah. No, I wouldn't even think.
Yeah, like I've got a lot of cool old videos of St. Pete, that I would like to share, and I even have old pictures, like I shared some from Sunken Gardens of me from 1983, so that's another thing, a path I'd like to go down, is sharing, again, the pride of St. Pete. We need more, we need more, I don't know, we especially, we need stuff in this world.
We need more positivity, especially right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being on this podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. And I appreciate you letting me share my story. And
I think it's a powerful one that people can really learn from.
It's really hard for me to be transparent like this, but hopefully I can inspire somebody else that's sitting there wanting to get out and do something, and just know you can do it.